Colleagues on both sides of the aisle, I'm an original co-sponsor of this bill, and I've noted some of the comments here, and I believe we should take a step back and ask ourselves, you know, what do we seek in our republic regarding individual rights, liberties, and freedoms? I mean, do you believe in those core tenets of our republic or not? We have an opportunity before us with this bill to push back against it. The ranking member mentioned a sweeping attack. Yes, this is what we have suffered. We have suffered as a nation, a sweeping attack against equality. That's exactly what we're fighting against. Another colleague mentioned oppression and degradation. It's exactly what we're pushing back against. This is a bill that eliminates government-sponsored oppression of individual rights, liberties, and freedoms in the land of the free. Freedom of opportunity, not result.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about a heated congressional hearing that basically started off talking about the proven discrimination that happened as a result of FEMA workers skipping the homes of Trump supporters. Okay, the FEMA worker, the whistleblower came out and said, yeah, we systemically discriminated against Trump supporters. We did not help them because we felt like Trump supporters are dangerous, right? This is what she said, okay? And lo and behold, right, when you look into FEMA, just like when you looked into the Secret Service, one of the things that they're focusing on the most within these government departments is diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? DEI, okay? And Republicans, because we have the majority, right? The American people have given Republicans a mandate, and a part of that mandate is pushing back against the far left woke agenda that promotes discrimination against people, whether that be based off politics, but also based off racist will too, right? This is what the modern day left believe, and they will fight tooth and nail in order to protect their ability to discriminate against people, right? In fact, they'll say that you are the racist if you want to get rid of the overt discrimination that the left supports, right? And Republicans have come out and said, you know what? All of Joe Biden's executive orders promoting DEI and all these DEI offices within these institutions that are a complete and total waste of money, to be honest with you. We want to shut them down, right? We want to get rid of it. And you have some GOP Congress members who have proposed this bill. And of course, that has led to some woke Democrats losing their minds. Take a look.
But we are debating legislation that denies the sky is blue, water is wet, and racism is real. The major provision of the bill says to ban anything that acknowledges racism. And a few pages later in the exact same bill, there are multiple provisions discussing the presence of racism. This Republican approach is as predictable as it is nonsensical. On one hand, they're saying that racism does not exist. On the other hand, they are saying there is rampant reverse racism. Well, how do you reverse something that never existed in the first place? Riddle me that. While this Republican policy may have a new name, it's the same old tired game. Look, y'all are entitled to your opinions, but not a denial of the facts. Do you all know your history? Do you know American history? The original Constitution counted enslaved individuals as 3/5 of a person. And I'd also just like to take a personal note of privilege to say, please keep Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s name out of your mouths. Yes. Your perversion of his words and his mission when his children have asked you to stop invoking his name and perverting his work when he was a proud and unapologetic black man fighting for equality for black Americans and all marginalized people. So you all are entitled to your opinions, but not a denial of the facts. But I'm not surprised that you would deny American history. A colleague across the aisle invoked the phrase of, we must do everything to stop government-sponsored oppression. Well, I've just enumerated numerous examples, which is exactly why we have legislation and an executive order to reverse this harm. And that is why I'm committed to opposing this bill and urge my colleagues to do the same.
I thank my colleague, and I appreciate my Democrat colleague for exemplifying exactly the kind of oppression of freedoms that we're referencing. How about we'll quote whoever we want to quote? How about that's my First Amendment right? That's exactly the kind of baked-in oppression. Like, how dare a white Republican quote Martin Luther King? We actually had a congressman say that just now in this committee. Well, thank you, good lady, for once again exemplifying the type of oppression that we stand against. You know I'm right. You know I'm right.
Order. Mr. Higgins has the floor.
And we will quote who we please to quote.
A disgrace.
And we will continue to speak freely because now I'm a veteran. That's the country that I serve. That's a Constitution I swore an allegiance to. And that oath has no expiration date. I will fight for it with my last life's blood. For my right to speak freely and yours, good lady. You will never hear me saying, how dare you quote anybody you please to quote. And that exemplifies, America, precisely the type of institutional oppression that my colleague, Mr. Cloud's bill, for which I'm an original co-sponsor, hopes to push back against.
Yeah, so you see that you heard that. Now, before I get into my opinion on that exchange, I just want to go ahead and finish showing you guys some of the clips, okay, of what happened here, because Ghetto Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is going to get upset. She's going to lose her mind over Congressman Clay Higgins basically pointing out the fact that, yes, you are trying to oppress me when you tell me that I can't quote Martin Luther King because you feel like it's not okay for a white Republican to quote Martin Luther King. I just want to play her response to this because these people get mad when the oppression card gets flipped on them.
Many of you know that I practice law, but some of you don't realize that I actually was a business major out of Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. And the emphasis that I got in my business degree was on finance. And as I traveled the country campaigning this election cycle, one of the things that I talked about was this idea that in finance, we always promote this idea of diversity. If you know anything about a portfolio, the one thing that you want to do is make sure that it's as diverse as possible because at times certain stocks will perform better than others and they will exemplify various strengths and weaknesses. And together, a diverse portfolio is usually what any good finance person would promote. They wouldn't promote that you solely invest in vanilla wafers, believing that that is going to be the strongest portfolio, but instead they may want to add some chocolate cake and some Twinkies into the mix to make sure that we have the best portfolio because there will be different preferences by different people. And again, there will be different strengths. But as I sit here and I think about what we say and what I'm hearing as it relates to diversity when it comes to anything outside of making money. And to be clear, we are losing GDP every time we try to push back on this idea of diversity because all of us bring something different to the table. But you consistently said over and over the word oppression, and every time that you said it, it was almost as if I was hearing nails on a chalkboard because it seems like you don't understand the definition of oppression, and I'd ask you to just refer to Google to help you out. Oppression is the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control. That is the definition of oppression. And so as I sit here as a black woman who practiced civil rights, let me tell you the reason that my colleagues wanted to make sure you understood the same black history that your side of the aisle wants to delete out of classrooms is because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country. You tell me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you were going to go and work We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression. We didn't ask to be here. We not the same migrants that y'all constantly come up against. We didn't run away from home. We were stolen. So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like, and don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed, that y'all are the ones that are being harmed. That's not the definition of oppression. You tell me the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment that you've had, and we can have a conversation.
You could start with Exodus.
The final thing that I will say on this particular issue, two things. There is an article from The Guardian, and it is a little old. It's from 2021, so I apologize. But it said that back then, just 3 years ago, white men represent 30% of the population, but 62% of office holders. These are the issues that we are constantly looking at and recognizing and trying to say, is this just? I can't even tell you how many white men have served in this chamber, but I can tell you that I am only the 55th black woman to be elected to Congress. And so when you want to talk about history and pretend as if it was so long ago, it wasn't. Because again, I am just number 55.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. There was so many historical inaccuracies and just flat out, I don't necessarily want to call it lies because I just think this woman's ignorant. So I can't say that she's necessarily lying. I just think she's dumb, right? I just don't think that she actually understands history. I hate when people try to educate other people on history when they clearly don't understand history. Like the history that they understand is the history that has been made up by the left, in which they conveniently leave out things that are not convenient for the race hustlers to understand, which is that you're not really a special, unique snowflake when it comes to this conversation about oppression and victimhood, right? When you look at how historically people have been treated based off race or ethnicity. Like, for example, this woman claims that white people have never been oppressed, right? They've never been dragged out of their homes and across the ocean, right? Which, again, is just factually incorrect, right? It's just wrong, okay? Actually, there were people who were political prisoners, indentured servants, prostitutes, criminals that actually were forced. They were forced from England, Ireland. They were forced to America, okay? They were called undesirables, okay? Read a history book, right? There actually were white people that were forced out of their homes, forced from their homeland to the New World, right? Because they were not desired in England. They were not desired in Ireland. They were not desired where they were. That actually happened, okay? And it's just so hilarious to me because, again, it's funny because the Irish indentured servants, right? They love to try to say this is a white supremacist myth, okay, in order to try to downplay black slavery, right? This is what they say. But what they don't understand is that existed. That was a thing. The Irish, at least some of them, were indentured servants. And when you look at the conditions of indentured servitude and slavery, in a lot of cases, they were damn near the same. Now, the only difference was that technically indentured servitude is like debt bondage, right? Basically, it's like, okay, once your debt is up, then you're free, right? It's not something that you're born into. It's not inherited like chattel slavery, right? Those are the main differences. But the actual conditions were just as bad as slavery, right? In a lot of cases, okay? And these were white people, okay, that were forced into labor, okay, for all types of reasons that had nothing to do with them, right? They were forced to do that. Again, a history that these people conveniently leave out. Also, the Irish have faced historical discrimination in North America. White people, something that, again, they don't want to talk about. Again, it just blows my mind how ignorant these people are, right? They think they know everything. They think that they're the ones that are the arbiters of truth when it comes to history. But when you hear them talk, they're just so ignorant, okay? Also, on top of that, she claims that black people didn't run away from Africa. Black people were stolen, right? As in, she didn't ask to be here, which, by the way, I mean, if she has a problem being here, right? If she doesn't like to be here, She can just go back, right? I'm just saying, she can go back. There's nothing stopping her from getting a one-way ticket to whatever African country she thinks that her ancestors descended from, right? I'm just saying. I'm just saying there's nothing stopping her from doing that. But a vast majority of the African slaves that came over to North America were already enslaved before they were sold to the white man, okay? They were enslaved by other African tribes. So there were some people who were quote unquote stolen from their homes, but they were a minority of the slaves, right? A majority of the slaves that the Europeans had acquired came because other Africans did the dirty work and then sold them to the white man, right? So let's be clear, okay? Because if you want to talk about history, let's be accurate. Let's tell the story correctly, which is what they refuse to do, because it's inconvenient when you say, no, hold on now. Without the Africans, right, aka other black people, the Europeans would not have been as successful as they were when it comes to the slave trade, which, by the way, you know who also ended the transatlantic slave trade? The Europeans, right? The white man ended that, right? The white man said, no, you Africans, you know, this right here is too savage, right? You guys got to stop it with all this slavery stuff. We got to end it, okay? You can't be benefiting from this anymore. Again, funny how that works. Also, there were white men that fought in the Civil War in order to end slavery as well, too. They fought and died. They lost their lives, okay? A lot of them, poor whites. And last but not least, Jasmine Crockett claims that she has a problem with white men being overrepresented among office holders. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, right? You have an issue with that? Cool. So you must have an issue with black men being overrepresented in the NBA and the NFL, right? Do you have a problem with that? Because if that's what you want, right? If you want to have less white men in corporate offices because they're being overrepresented, so we need to have less black men in the NFL and in the NBA, right? Because they're definitely overrepresented. Okay? I'm just saying. I mean, we can apply that logic across the board, but I guarantee you she wouldn't do that. Because again, it's not about equality, okay? It's about racial superiority, right? That's what it's about for them. That's 100% what it's about. Because if it was about equality, they would have no issues with abolishing DEI and saying, hey, you know what? The government should hire based off meritocracy, right? When you talk about all these positions within the government, these departments, hey, let's make it merit-based. Let's stop doing all of this hiring based off race and sex and who you like to sleep with and whether or not you like your genitalia. Let's just stop all that. Let's just hire the most qualified individual. Okay, or let's at least strive for that. Okay, let's have that as a goal, and let's just get rid of all the other stuff, right? But no, we can't do that, right? They see that as an unlevel playing field. The only way in which they can compete on a level playing field is for you to overtly discriminate against white. That is what they believe because of historical oppression, right? I'm just saying, this is what they believe. Okay, nobody else has ever been oppressed. Nobody else has ever had some type of unfair disadvantage except blacks and everybody else. And the white man, okay, even though, again, you do have groups of white people that have been historically oppressed as well, too. You've never faced it. It's never happened to you, right? You have no room whatsoever to complain. Therefore, we should have state-sponsored discrimination. This is their argument. This is their argument. They think they're special, right? And I guess the Republican argument, the GOP argument is that, listen, nobody should be special, right? Nobody should get special treatment. Let's treat everybody the same, okay? And let's just move forward like that. Nah, they can't do that, right? Can't do it. Now, here's the thing. The American people voted against this, right? For as much as the liberal media wanted to boohoo, whine, and cry about the Republican attacks against DEI being racist, apparently the American people didn't think so, right? The American people said, hey, you know what? We don't agree with this either, right? The far left woke agenda. So if this is the hill they want to die on, promoting state-sponsored discrimination instead of meritocracy, if they want to die on that hill, fine, right? Let them do it. The race hustlers will praise Jasmine Crockett, but people like her are the reason why the Democrats will continue to lose, because the American people have rejected this. They've rejected this, and the more that these people double and triple down on, no, we must continue to do this, Don't be surprised again when you have a vast majority of American people say, nah, we don't want to do this, right? We don't think that this is right. Don't be surprised when Democrats continue to lose. I'm just saying. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.